Hi, welcome back to Now TV Canada at I Am Just An YouTube channel. So, like, this knitting thing is absolute madness. So I had to go get more stuff. This time I'm smart. It's not the expensive stuff, but it's still nice stuff. It's at the dollar store. So with this one, if you cut the colors properly, you can double knit these two colors and then double knit these two colors. So you can get scarf, slippers, hat, mittens for little kids. I have a little girl in mind for this pink. And then I can practice the fuzzy wuzzy kind of slippers with this. And then I have the two colors that I had hidden that I wanted really bad to double knit with for scarf or something. See? So, like it's become a frenzy. Look, I found this little sewing kit because I have a teddy bear, like it was from a Toy Story movie. It was a gift from a friend, and it's got a rip in its leg that ripped before she tried to sew it. So now I have something better. Anyways, the point is, when you start learning to knit or pick up knitting and you get good at it, or you realize, hey, I can do this, and then you're like, I want to do more, it becomes an addiction, and then you constantly buy stuff, and then you're busy using everything you have because you want to use it all, and you can't help yourself. Now, for me, the reason this is important is because my Uncle Spencer died last year while I was working frontline work at Mission Possible, and I had to deal with like 5 or 6 other overdoses out on the streets while I was doing that work. And then I got told my uncle died, so he was a part of the number of the people that I lost in that year. And in my lifetime, that is the most amount of death, that is the most amount of loss and suffering I've ever had to live through. And I was watching, I can't think of his last name, but Mark, the knitting channel guy that I am now following, talk about his story, and it just connected with my story. And the whole point of my story is around Thanksgiving. It's about holidays. Growing up the way I was taught as a Jehovah's Witness child at this organization, holidays were an issue. I couldn't really enjoy myself except for Thanksgiving and Easter, the Passover. I was good on collecting chocolates and enjoying Jesus at the same time. And I enjoyed turkey and my grandmother and my uncle because he was all I had for a father figure. Earth-wise, on this earth, he had no kids, so I was next of kin. And I had grown up to practice cooking turkeys through the years. I even remember the person and the place I cooked my first turkey at 19. And the whole point of all of the subconscious inside thoughts, which were never shared, the secret stuff in the secret place, that all of those cooking turkeys was so I could go and visit my uncle and have turkey with him in that house that was part of my childhood and life and love in our family after my grandmother had passed away, and cook for him at that table in that house, in that kitchen, that felt like she would still be there with us because her fingers are still alive. Her taste bud and the skills were passed down, and it lives in me. And so it leads to the knitting, because I lost the ability to have that Thanksgiving and that turkey, and coming across the expensive wool through my job as a support worker for the Canucks Autism Network last year, when I was dealing with adult people in an arts program where they're painting and doing all kinds of stuff, yoga and music and stuff. And I thought, I want to go get some supplies, and I want to invest in having material for myself with clients on a personal level, and stuff that I can bring as a support worker or somebody who could be trained eventually to coach or lead classes that I could share with people and we could have fun. And that led to me ending up in a knitting store, a wool shop up the street, and it had very expensive high-end stuff, all kinds of fun projects and stuff. I was like, oh, I can't do this. But I fell in love with this one wool thing, and I'm like, oh, I want to knit a scarf for myself. And I know I can remember my grandma taught me how to knit scarves, right? So I remembered the scarves. I did 2 scarves. And I'm like, okay, I can remember this. I can pick up the needles. I can get that back. And it's taken a year because I bought that wool last year, and now you guys are watching me make that scarf this year, and I can't get over the connection of the loss of my uncle and not ever being able to have that Thanksgiving dinner experience where I could cook food so we could enjoy my grandmother at the table and in our mouth, like she was with us, that she's alive, and have the presence of that silence in the food as we're eating it because it's so good, and that we're so aware that she's with us, and have Spencer enjoy that, and have my uncle be happy, and just be rejoicing, and just, wow, it's splendid to feel like my mom is here, and then look at me and see that gift that happens in family when unconditional love is there and the lesson taught is there and the gift is passed down. And so the knitting replaces the heartache and the loss of not getting that Thanksgiving, and gives me something new to throw my grandmother's fingers into, to throw her spirit, her soul, her energy, and the unconditional love in my family into, and gives me a new focus to find ways to get good in my own niche and area of it. And because I'm going on 50 and I've lived my life out on the streets, and I've struggled through shelters and one room hotels and short-lived rental contracts for 1 year, and having jobs here and there and moving around, and even living out of my van for a time while I was going to school in Toronto, I'm tired. And I've had good jobs, and I've had good bosses, and I've had good moments and opportunities where I should have been able to own a home. And the house that my uncle was in should have become my inheritance. And then the woman he married just over a dozen years before was not so kind or compassionate or loving and accepting to us, the natural family. And I had a pretty good relationship with my uncle. It wasn't bad. I'm sorry, the reason I'm not showing you guys my face is because I don't want to cry. Like Mark, I'm like, I cry a lot when it hurts, when it hits that sensitive spot. So I just kind of focused it on the wool, because the knitting is the thing. That's it, right? That's where the story is going. I'm doing this video in the bathroom at the library because it's not loading fast enough at home, and I'm not able to show you guys all the stuff I want you to see from home and know that it's going to go up at the same time. So I'm doing this here now while I have the Wi-Fi working faster, and then I'll still go do the one at home, but that'll load probably the day after, and tomorrow's Thanksgiving. And I came out today to finish getting all my supplies, because if people have been watching my videos and channel, then you know that I had pre-planned that I would do cabbage rolls for Thanksgiving instead of turkey, because I'm still hurting. I'm still mourning the loss of my uncle and not getting to do that Thanksgiving. So I'm spending Thanksgiving dinners with different people in different places. Last year I was at UGM, and I was grateful to sit down at a table where I could eat with people that understood the pain and the suffering of the life and the struggles of financial struggles, right? And the life that goes with that kind of life in this life, and the disconnect in families where there was love, but communication was poor. So back to the story of communication being poor, is that she didn't know that there was no problem between me and my uncle, this lady that married him. And it was just really rushed. I wasn't even there when they got married, because I had grown up and left that city. Most of my trauma and abuse had happened in that city. So she basically disconnected. When her and my mom had a falling out, something happened. There was a problem because my mom is very disobedient, and she misbehaves. She has issues. And she likes to pull strings or poke at people and sensitive things that set them off, triggers. And she was convinced, this lady was convinced that my mom was doing stuff in a way that my mom to this day claims, oh, I didn't do that. It wasn't that intent. It wasn't like that. It's all in your head. And so the back and forth thing goes to the point where my uncle had to step in and make a choice, and he chose his new wife, of course, over his sister, because he knew his sister all of his life, so he knows her antics and what she's like. But he didn't want to see what his new wife was like, and I could see it. And I knew that when they got married that would be a problem. But I never thought I'd never get to see my uncle again. I never thought I'd get cut out of the relationship that he and I had because I'm a separate person. And he always treated me like a separate person. I was not my mom. And the sin of the father is not the sin of the son, or vice versa, mother, daughter, whatever. Relationship was different, uncle, niece. And he was all I had close to me. My great uncle Paul, and they came to visit once. I only saw my grandpa 3 times, and my other uncle lives in England with his wife, and I never got to see much of the other family while they were alive. I got to see my grandmother's sister, my great uncle Pearl, once. And so there was good people in the family, but there was this huge brokenness and disconnect. And God, spirituality would be part of it, but also, I guess, divorce. And the class level. My grandmother always felt she wasn't good enough to be around other family members of hers, brothers and sisters, because they were better off than her. They were doing better. They were richer. They had more money. But it wasn't that much of a difference, and it wasn't that much bigger or better. And it would have been no problem. They would have been fine to have united and met and have bigger gatherings and stuff, and it would have been fine because I had done the traveling around in this place to go meet and find them, to get to know who I am, to find myself. And that's where all this food and knitting stuff comes from, because there is so much talent and wealth in my family through that talent. It's not a monetary thing. It's an emotional, spiritual, physical gift kind of thing. So I had been told that my uncle had had a heart attack a few years ago, but he had survived. And I sent cards, I sent letters and pictures, messages, updates to the house, and I didn't get anything back, no communication. So I didn't know if she was hiding stuff coming in the mail and he wasn't being allowed to read it. I didn't know if he had any idea at all that I was trying to reach out, because he would never have done that to me deliberately after being sick like that. So they say that he was like me, wheelchair bound, like he was weak because he was tall and very skinny, and he had a weak heart. He had well, the flutter thing with the heart when he was younger. I can't think of it on top of my head. So he didn't like to do a lot of exerting things, worried that if he exercised or did too much, that it would cause a problem. And actually, that would have been part of the problem, is by not exercising enough, right? To work your body, because it's muscle, right? You need to work the muscle. You need to work all your parts to be strong. And he got sick just before he passed away with pneumonia. And at that point, we already have vaccines for pneumonia, especially for that age. And those vaccines were made for that kind of pneumonia for that age for a reason, to stop avoidable death from happening. And so when he passed away and I had found out that he had been in the hospital and had been contracting the pneumonia, I got upset, because I'm like, it was needless, right? Because she didn't know enough, didn't care enough. Because I didn't have that communication, I didn't have access and the contact. I couldn't tell him to get the vaccine after he'd had the heart attack, and to protect himself, so he'd still be alive and I could have had that Thanksgiving. So what I'm going to do now with all the knitting, as I take a break from cooking turkey dinners, until I can stop crying, until the tears stop, until the pain of not being able to have a Christ-centered home where I can pray and celebrate and be thankful with people around me that I love, that love me, that are close to each other. I'm going to knit, and I'm going to try to do stuff that becomes good enough that maybe people will order and want to support. And I'm going to try to do more club stuff and group stuff, even if it's through just support work, which I'm doing now with other people and them learning. So as soon as I started picking up the needles and doing this stuff and realizing that it's been passed down in my soul, in my hands, that I can do this, I started realizing I can turn around and teach what I'm learning immediately after I learn it to somebody else or to a little group of people. So I'm gonna keep learning what I can. And I just went crazy for the first few weeks watching so many videos. Taking in all the information and learning to do swatches, of patches for the first blanket that I want to make of a certain style. I had in my head on purpose already, where I'm going to knead it all together with nice, beautiful threading. It's not through crochet, but through knitting in different designs and stitches. That I got enough information in my head to start working on multiple projects, and finally got the design I wanted for the scarf, for the material I had bought myself last year. And so now I'm in the process of making that. Now I was trying to come up with something I could make for my mom's birthday, October 23rd, but the whisperings of the spirit kept saying, this wool was yours, you bought it for yourself to make yourself a scarf. You make it, you keep it, because it's expensive wool. and the design I've picked is usually a design stitching that they do for baby blankets or other blankets of sorts. It's not usually used in the stitch for scarf, and it's turned out amazing, beautiful, fantastic. Partly because the material is so expensive, not just the fact that I'm learning to knit in the round on a 6 with this four stitch style. It's actually 3 stitches, but there's 4 loops. There's 4 per cycle in the style on the pattern of the scarf. So I'm excited because I will use that pattern for ongoing scarf orders, I hope, the expensive material kind. And now I'm going to move into trying to do double knitting projects. I'm going to work on slippers and socks. I'm going to try cowls before I try braving hats. I got to practice doing in the round on the needles a little bit more before I switch over to that. And I'm hoping that will lead to something that might have a form of side income that will help me deal with the loss of all the family I've lost, and the fact that I don't have a husband and I don't have my kids with me, and I haven't seen my oldest child since she was 15, who's taken on a way of life I can't support religiously. And I never did anything to have her hate me and treat me in that way. But she's so full of bitterness and anger, and I don't know where it came from or why. But I guess when parents get divorced and people move apart, this stuff happens. Kids get wounded. But you'd think at some point they mature and grow up, and she's going on 28. But for me, it sort of feels like death. Like I don't have this person in my life. They're not here, even though they are alive. And it's hurting me that I give birth twice. I don't have the children in my care and haven't raised them myself and been able to work and buy a house and stabilize. And that's part of the reason why my life has been so moved around, flighty, because I can't settle if I don't have what I'm looking for and what I'm needing to settle. So I focused on my career, threw myself into my writing, and now my cooking, and now the knitting. And I'm hoping that will lead to some circle of friends that will bring us together in the things that we all have in common, that we like to do and that we're good at, and that will finally lead to a moment in time where I may find the desire to want to cook a turkey and go lavishly all out and do the trimmings with the shortbread cookies and the date squares and all the other British foods from my English lineage, and share that with all of them at a time, I hope, that will be right for all of us in dealing with all of our own traumas and issues that brought us together in whatever it is, including the knitting. So that's my thing. I'm going to end here. I'm going to go home now and work on the cabbage rolls I said I was going to make instead. I had a dream that I did get to eat Thanksgiving twice last night, so I think it's good. I'm going to get 2 servings. Last year there was all these people going around in lineups, 3-4 times servings. I only got 1 serving, and I was pretty hungry. I didn't have a lot of food, because when you're a starving artist, you tend to pass up on the food in order to focus on your art. So I was disappointed. And a few days later, there was another meal, so I did end up getting a second one. It just wasn't on the same day. And this time tomorrow, I don't have anything to do on purpose, so I can go around in the lineup so I can have a second serving helpings. And people with eating disorders know quite often we don't do second servings. We're just getting by on what we need to get by on, just first servings. Also, when you eat too much, you get too tired, legged out, and then you don't have the energy to do anything. I like to eat food, go burn it off, and earn more food, and then come home and eat, knowing I had earned it because I had worked hard at the gym, pool, walking, whatever it is I'm doing, to eat that meal, and then you don't feel any guilt, and then you can enjoy it. So I'm gonna go now, do cabbage rolls and do short videos because those are loading fine. It's the long videos that I'm having trouble with for a few more days until my phone bill goes through, and then my gigs kick in at full power, and then the long video should load. And I also have good news that I'm gonna meet the standards for the 4,000 views in the last 12 months necessary to finally get my creator status back from original rules before they changed it all, and finally start monetizing everything that I do. So all the support I get from people now with the knitting community of stuff that we're doing, and the cooking and the food, and supporting me in my writing in this Smallville Reunion movie book one, and the fiasco I had with the self-publishing company would be great, so that I can finally reach the dream of owning a home, and then I can have like friends and people over and have little sessions of food, knitting, and things there, and do home share and help other people with the autism and other things that people are needing help with in my home share program ideas. But that all starts with owning a home, and I found a property, and I need to have enough money to be able to get approved for that mortgage to do it. So that's it. Peace out. Bye. Sorry.